Welcome to this Critical Thinking Live, where Friends of Europe brings you influencers, leaders, opinion formers, those who are affecting our lives in various ways, either through policy making or the work they do in institutions, or generally thinkers who actually are concerned and care about what happens to people in Europe and the world, and Europe's role in the world. It gives me the greatest pleasure. And I have to say, a favourite personality of mine, and that's Michel Praet. He's a well-kent figure in Brussels circle and European circles. A long, esteemed, established career, has been synonymous with the European Space Agency, but he's worked with a number of deputy prime ministers, both in Belgium, but also been advisor to Rompuy in the council, and has done a number of roles across his distinguished career. I'm particularly sad, but also pleased that I'm having this conversation with Michel because he's retiring after his very long distinguished career later this year. So what better an opportunity to be able to engage with a wise owl who has been in places and in conversations that have been influential to public policy in Europe. And we're going to tap into his experience, but also what he thinks about the future that's upon us, especially next year when we have the elections, but also looking ahead from his rear view mirror of what he's experienced so far, what will likely change for us into the future. Michel, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to have
These
you
are
here.
two kind words, but
Not at all. Worthy of them. You've been, as I said, synonymous with European Space Agency. That's not been your only career, but it's been a large part of your career. And you've been there, if I can say, right from the early days. Can you share with us, because I don't think many people understand, what was the original purpose behind establishing the European Space Agency?
it's an agency that is specialized, as the word says, in space. Because what we missed at that time in Europe was to have an agency that stands for collaboration between European member states in order to develop the space facilities in Europe, being not only launches but also satellites and so on. That was the main goal in the beginning. So it is a research and technology agency, having, of course, some political views and some policy views, but in the beginning it was mainly there to create a European space sector. So to develop industry that in the beginning didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So thanks to a public sector and thanks to a public agency, the industry developed in order to have the sector we have now, and that is flourishing because we had in 2022 a ministerial of ESA engaging for 17 billion euros for 3 years. That is quite impressive, but it is due to the fact that member states recognize the specificity and also the quality of the European Space Agency.
Okay. Most people will, when they think about European Space Agency, they won't really know what it does. But the one program or the one, I suppose, manifestation is Copernicus.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about the roots of Copernicus and where it stands right now?
Yes. Well, Copernicus is a program that was initiated by the Commission. And we can have a word about the role of the Commission later. And the Commission said, okay, what we miss in Europe is a strong Earth observation sector. And seeing that space is the tool necessary to have the observation of the Earth, the fact to develop a Copernicus activity, a Copernicus program, not only on Earth, because you have Earth tools too, but also in space. In space was the role of ESA, and to develop it today. So we are, for Earth observation, one of the better agency, industries, and so on in the world, better than the Americans, than the Russians, than the Chinese, for specific Earth observation issues. And that's why today, when there is a debate on climate change and on other things, we can be thanks to this program, we can be supportive more than others of the climate change issue.
Because it provides real-time
Yes,
data. You
yes,
can see what's
absolutely,
happening to our Earth.
absolutely, absolutely.
And obviously, one of the things that I know European Space Agency is working on, if you could just say a little bit about it, because I know it's a work in progress, is the digital twin Earth.
Yes,
Tell us a bit about it. It sounds fascinating.
yes.
And just explain what that is.
Well, we try to create, it's not yet there, but we try to create another Earth and to test with a model different possibilities, saying if this happens in the world, what will be the result on Earth? And you cannot do that in real terms in the Earth, because otherwise you destroy partly of the Earth. So you create another Earth, you create a digital twin, and you apply this model to new situations and so on. We are not yet there, but it's something that can bring us further into the debate and into the policy. Because when I say that we do that in ESA, we have models, we have data, we have all the things, but we are not the ones that are the political leaders that are implementing this and saying, okay, with this file, I'm going to do this and that. This is the role of politicians, of commissioners, and so on and so on. And that's very clear. You have at the one side the political authority linked with member states and with commissioners, and you have at the other side the technological and research capacity of ESA, even if ESA is also doing some politics by applying rules for new programs.
When you look back and you think about how the agency has developed, if you were to point to some of the significant improvements of space in terms of space policy, what would they be?
As you said, they are linked to Earth observation, and they are linked to what I could call space application. For instance, in the Galileo program, that is our European GPS, or I have to say perhaps that the Americans have their Galileo program instead of their GPS, because it's very impressive what we are doing in Galileo. Copernicus, Galileo, also today in communication with the IRIS Square program of Commissioner Breton. So this is more than, of course, we have astronauts, we have space exploration, and so and we dream by doing space and by visiting the space solar system. But for people and for citizens, it's more important to see how space applications can develop and create a link between people in the society.
Are we behind in the race to space? When you think about what Russia and India is leapfrogging many countries and regions. You have USA. USA spends far more money on space than Europe does, by half. Are we behind?
We are behind in some sectors. It's clear that I was just telling about space exploration. There the Americans are far ahead of us. But I would say, that's normal. We shouldn't be the first ones everywhere. When I say that in meteorology, in Earth observation, in climate change, we are the leading continent, it's true. So should we be the first one everywhere? My answer is no. We should say where we want to put our priorities in a political way, and then to put this and to construct programs and to develop programs in order to have this result.
Okay, you're not a political beast. As you say, you provide data. You provide data insight.
Yes.
And you're able to engage in deep space exploration, create a digital Earth, twin Earth. You're able to create Europe's GPS as well as low Earth observation, etc. So there's a number of things the agency has enabled wider society to understand better itself, but also what's happening to our planet. We live in a geopolitical world that's becoming even more unpredictable, and there are tensions everywhere you look. It's not a case of East-West, it's everywhere. What do you see as the current danger of what's happening regarding Russia, China, and India in terms of collaboration in space? Because at the end of the day, what we've witnessed in the past 3 years is multi-billionaires annexing space, and they're moving faster than any government, and governments are playing catch-up. What do you think? What's your advice about how we deal with this geopolitical situation we find ourselves in? And do we need to make more of an effort for collaboration, or do we just let it happen? You know, take 1,000 flowers bloom in space.
There is an expression saying that to tango you need to be two. So in collaboration efforts, I think we do a lot. It's still going on with the US, and very well. We speak a lot, and we have contacts and contracts with India, you were telling us, and with Brazil and with other continents. They are doing a great job. With Russia, as you know, well, the problem is, I hope, temporary. I really hope that it will be temporary, because we are doing, as you said, science and technology. And you can see that you can notice that during the Cold War, even in 1975, there was an agreement between Russia and the US to have in orbit a space station. That was the Apollo-Soyuz time. It was in the Cold War in 75.
Wow.
And the collaboration never stopped. Even in the Cold War, it never stopped. It stopped since February last year.
Wow.
And that's something that we should notice and work on in order to relaunch a possibility for collaboration later on. I don't know when, but I think it's useful because we have one world, and we have not a Chinese space data or a Russian space data or a European space data. Space data are space data, and it can help to develop a better society in the world globally. And so we have to work together.
Let's turn to the European Space Agency as a public agency. And, you know, you can now say things, I hope, that you may not have wanted to say or are able to say before. Is it time for the agency to change
Yes.
in terms of its role and purpose?
Yes. What we notice, and that's coming from the US, is a sort of wave of new space that is not really new. It's in fact NASA that doesn't want to develop programs as they did before. So they ask private industry to do and to perform. And then they say, okay, after this competition, we are choosing, for instance, SpaceX, and we are making a contract with them to develop a new launcher. We don't do that. We do it internally still. And that we should change. We should say we have other ways. We are an agency, a public agency. We are not necessarily there as in the beginning to help industry to develop. Industry is strong enough today, but we are there to control. And that's really our goal. It's to say we have the best engineers, we have the better scientists, and what they have to do is to control that things are functioning well. That's the public sector that is doing that, because the private sector will not do. They are doing that for profit, and that's their role. We are doing there in order to be sure that it brings something to society, and bringing something is by controlling that everything is on the good path.
So the agency should be more specific and clear about its standard setting,
Yes.
regulatory function,
Yes.
and innovation function
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
But what it should do is share the space of industrial development with
Yes.
the private sector, is what you're
Yes,
saying. More so.
absolutely.
Would that require change of its constitution?
No. No, we can do it, I don't say from one day to another. It requires a change in mind of people working for the agency.
Right.
We are around 5,000 people, and they are used to work in a certain way.
Right.
It was the same with the Commission entering into the sector, with the union entering into the sector. A lot of people, of engineers of ESA said, why are they doing? What are they doing? Why is today the European Union suddenly interested in space. Well, it's a good thing, because if you don't have a political credit to establish your policy, you are just doing R&D, and that's fine, but you are not helping to perform and to enhance the space file.
And you feel that the sector's ready for this
Yes.
role
Yes.
in terms of being able to collaborate with you
Yes.
in advancing space?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Therefore, it begs the question for me is that you are a beast of membership. So, you know, you have member states who are not necessarily all from the Union. You have the UK and others. They have to believe in this too.
Yes.
In this change. What's your sense of where are they most collaborative and coherent about the future direction of European Space Agency?
Well, as I said before, they are investing 17 billion euros for 3 years, end of 22. So they expect ESA to develop more and to have more innovation programs, programs bringing more data, and so on and so on. And this the Commission cannot do, because it's not a space agency, not because they are doing bad work, on the contrary. But you need two things. You need one political or more centered political body, and one more centered technological body, as CERN for nuclear activities is doing also, because it's always linked with one sector and the policy. And if they go hand in hand, they can reach what I would call societal goals that not just an agency can reach, or that not just a union can reach.
So, in that sense,
Yes.
So your members, you know, it's very clear that the council has given a vote of confidence to the future
Yes.
of the ESA with this 17 billion investment. What about the Commission? Does Commissioner Breton have it right? Is his thinking about space sufficiently, and I call it, when I say robust, I mean, does he get the fact that space ought to be a significant policy driver for the current and the future mandate?
Commissioner Breton, yes. The problem, it's not a problem, it's an issue with the change of commissioners and of the Commission. We would like in ESA to have the same system and to have the same support of the Commission than we have today in the coming years. And that will depend on the new Commission, on the new Commissioner. So that's always the problem, but it's always a problem in politics because it's changing. But the stability should be there, because you cannot say that for 2 years you are doing Earth observation, for 3 years you are stopping Earth observation, for 4 years you are again doing a little bit more of Earth observation. The stability is in politics one of the main important facts. I've noticed that during all my career. The importance is not to increase figures or to do something and then to change. The importance is in the stability and in the continuity of the politics. That's very important.
No, indeed. But, I mean, politics always changes. We have an electoral cycle. However, we know that, you know, with the multi-financial and multi-annual financial framework, it's an innovation. You can plan for 7 years.
Yeah.
But I suppose my question to you is, do you feel that the Commission is really, I mean, the current Commission, and, you know, we'll talk about what we ought to be saying to the new Commission as of end of next year, is that do they really understand the fact that space should be considered as a public good, and it has an impact on creating public good?
Well, Commissioner Breton is understanding that for his part, and his part is linked with industry, with communication, and so on. But if you ask me if the Commission as a global entity is aware that space could help in agricultural policy, that space could help in culture, that space could help in other files, the answer is no. So there, even this Commission should be more interlinked between the commissioners and try to have this consciousness of space developed. I know it's not easy to do because you have to have all DGs together and, let's say, one every 2 months to have a little debate of 1 hour or 2 and say, okay, where can space help and how can we do? It's not an easy factor. But one day it will have to be like this, because otherwise we miss opportunities in space files.
How urgent do you feel the issue is? And I've asked that question when we think of the temperatures this year.
Yes.
Every year we keep on breaking
Yes.
records. IPCC reports have almost become redundant because they say the same thing, and politicians apparently do not listen. We know, you know, that Earth observation and space capabilities could hugely transform our capability and our preparedness for the extremities that are upon us now, but into the future. How urgent do you think we need to really ratchet up the politics around the importance of space?
I think tomorrow will be too late, so we have to do it directly now. When I was speaking about continuity, of course, the commissioners can change, but you have the director generals in the commission, and I have a good friend that is Kurt van den Berg, who is today DG of DG Climate, and we had a meeting with him very soon after his nomination, and he told us that space is for him a crucial element, a crucial tool in order to develop his climate change policy. And that's, if this is going on, if a lot of DGs in the Commission understand that space is not just there for the beauty of space, but can help them in their policies, then we are better off than today.
Let's hope they're watching and listening to what you're saying. Can we, as we kind of wind down this conversation, can you reflect a little bit on your political career? Because you've been, most people that are close to you know that you've been advisor to various deputy prime ministers. You were part of the cabinet for Rompuy, and you've done a number of things in different agencies, but you also sit on various boards like Beaux-Arts, elsewhere, and you've created your own little society in Venice as well, which most people won't be aware of. And you've written about innovation as well. Can you reflect on that journey you've had so far in terms of what are the key things that you've learned from that experience about politics?
I would have been bored if I have done space in my life.
Okay.
Space is fine. It's a good technology, but doing that all your life, and it's coming back to the conversation we just had 2 minutes before. We need to understand that space is more than space, if I may say so. That it can bring something in culture, that it can bring something for society. And that's why I was really more than happy to work for 5 years in the cabinet of Van Rompuy when he was president of the European Council, because I had the innovation file, the industry file, the cultural file, and with all this combining, it was a little bit of space, it was not a lot of space, but having this experience in mind, you can develop another scenario when you are speaking about space. People change, and when you deal with space, when you are discussing with other people about space, integrating what you have learned in other files, it brings something that I think is better than a 1 year INSEAD, even if I was in INSEAD too, or a 2 years MBA. It brings something like openness and like what I could call a humanistic approach. And what we miss these days, and I see it every day with the engineers of ESA, that by the way are very good, is to have this holistic approach, this approach of this humanistic approach, how to deal with important issues. And these important issues are not linked with one technology. They are not linked with one policy. They are linked with an ecosystem. And if you don't get this ecosystem, you miss the ball.
So that's about having a sense of comparative advantage, but also real-time life experiences in a political world.
Yes.
Covering a number of areas,
yes.
portfolios. What about politics? Did it turn you off? Could you say, we're working that closely to power. One might say when you experience what we read about, what we've seen, and almost what I describe as a deterioration of politics. Public politics has become mired in oppositional ways of working. It's not very authentic, not bound by integrity, generalism, and corrupt often. Did you kind of, what was your reflection of working in that space so closely to those who are very focused on being at the most senior level of either running a government or a council?
Politicians, and there I would not deny what you said, but politicians are usually better than people think they are. Mm-hmm. They are doing a great job. The problem today is that they have to be on the media market every day. Mm. And if you have to be on the media market every day, you don't produce something, you consume something. And you consume information. And with this information, you try to convince people. But that's not producing something. There is a great difference between producing and between consuming. And a lot of politicians today are happy to be on social media and so on, but what they do is they consume. They say, I did this today, and so instead of saying, I have a file, I'm reflecting during 3 months, 6 months, I have a policy, and I come with this policy. And then you can criticize or not. But this is really what we need. But there, everyone has a problem. I mean, also in society, people that say, if you disappear during 3 months, we are forgetting you. And that's not good. I mean, we have really to build on a public sector that is a strong public sector and to attract people in the public sector. Because I see that my son is a little bit in politics. It's probably not thanks to me, but he looked at me and said, why not? But by doing that, he's engaging, he's also speaking during evenings, giving conferences and so on. And today, who is doing that? You can earn more money in the private sector, that's very clear. But to have this sort of advocacy for space, advocacy for politics, advocacy for culture and so on, you really need to, to be to think in political terms. And when I say political terms, I say in policy terms, police into the city. What is a city? And what can I bring to the city? And that's the noble part of politics.
Those are wise words around politics and the importance of, in my words, having a sense of public service and an ethos for social good, which is not so evident in our politics of today. But as you look ahead to next year, you've been through various cycles of European Parliament elections, and we are probably in the depths, I can imagine, historically, in terms of a click and swipe culture of politics. It is literally a click and swipe culture of politics. What are your concerns about the elections next year?
Easy solutions or easy problems. A lot of people in politics think that if they come with easy solutions, they will convince more easily people to vote for them, because we are perhaps not educated in complexity. The European system is a complex system. It's very easy to say, if I would be there, I would do that and that. Okay. But you have to change the system. You don't change it from today to tomorrow. You bring something into the system that is trying to make a change, not a revolution, but a reformation of this. But by doing that, you need to understand what you are telling, and you need also to convince people that this is a possible way. It's more easy to say, no, if I'm there tomorrow, I will change radically this and this, and it will be like that. People will say, that's someone that can do something. No, he cannot do, or she cannot do. But by saying this, by being black and white, 1 or 0, you create into the public a sort of way to think that this is possible, and this is not possible. So it's important to have again, a view about the complexity. Things are not easy in life. No one knows, everyone knows, that in life things are not just white or black. But in politics, a lot of people think it's like that. And that is, you know, you spoke about my role as advisor for vice prime ministers and deputy prime ministers and so on. It's very easy to say, oh, I would do that and I would change that and that. It's a theoretical method. But in the practice, to change this, that asks for a lot of instruments, a lot of adaptation. Mm-hmm. And even if politics decide to do that and that, if the administration is not changing, if the people behind are not changing, they can decide whatever they want. Mm-hmm. It will not change. So it's important to understand the complexity and to have the people with you in order to change this.
Finally, I would ask you what your messages are to a number of stakeholders. So imagine, you are giving a message to the Commission. What would your message be to Ursula von der Leyen and others, commissioners at the moment, as they struggle with the multiple demands, challenges, the crisis that they're dealing with, in terms of your experience so far, but also the role of space? What would be your message?
I would say it's already complex, as I said, in the European system. Try to make it a little bit more easy. Try to have responsibilities that are more clear than before. I'm speaking also about external relations, the roles between the vice president and high representative and the commission, and so try to make it more clear and to have a line that you define in the beginning and that you say, that's our line and we are going to build on this. That's very important. Otherwise, if you change, if people don't understand your message, then it creates a mess. And if it's a mess, there is a non-confidence of people in what you are doing.
What's your message to people out there on the street, in communities, in terms of the importance or the centrality of space to their lives?
If you don't have satellites today, you just close every satellite. Well, when you come home, you don't have the meteorology for tomorrow. You don't have communication with other continents. You cannot watch to the football game or to the soccer game that is played in Africa or somewhere. You are again on an island. What space can create is that you are not on an island, but that the island becomes the Earth. And that's what is linking us and what is linking people.
Thank you, Michel. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And spending this time, this precious time with me in this conversation. Colleagues, as you'll agree, I'm sure, that was a longer than expected interview, but I hope you think it was worth it and important to have the wells of wisdom from someone who's been in very significant positions, but a long track record of experience in a multiple set of situations, but also institutions and sectors. And you can tell that he takes a much needed, coherent approach to policymaking and thinking, and the need for us to focus on clarity of our purpose, but also to place people and community at the heart of what we do. He'll be missed formally, but I'm sure we'll make sure that Michel will be involved and active in various roles. I well imagine he will be. But thank you for listening and watching, and look forward to our next Critical Thinking Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.